The highest levels of unemployment for 14 years. The latest figures show that the number of people out of work is up again, topping 200,000 in the east of England.
Between May and July, unemployment in the east of England went up by 20,000. That means 6.7% of the workforce don't have jobs.
But compared to the rest of the country, the east has one of the lowest levels of unemployment. And in the East Midlands, which includes Northamptonshire, there's actually been a fall in jobless numbers.
So what does that mean for people in our region? Well, Malcolm Robertson has been to the town of Thetford in Norfolk to find out.
For Michael Scott, it's been a bad year. Unemployed since January, he's travelled from Brandon in Suffolk to nearby Thetford in the hope of finding some work. But at 51, he's finding it tough, especially at a time when nationally the unemployment figure is at its highest for 14 years. And in this region, 200,000 people are out of work. Michael's hoping for something in the building trade, and after 30 minutes at the job centre, there is an application to follow up. But then he has been here before.
It's pretty grim. There's just building-wise, there's absolutely nothing there. All the agencies that used to call me doesn't call me anymore. So there's just no work there for the building people.
In the east of England, there's been a rise in the number of people claiming unemployment benefits. In August, it was up by 89% compared to 12 months earlier. The Brentwood area has seen the biggest rise, with the number of people out of work and claiming benefits up by more than 160%. Our towns and cities have also seen large increases. In Peterborough, 89% more people are claiming unemployment benefits than a year ago. Southend and Luton are close behind. In Norwich, there's been a rise of 54%, and in Ipswich, it's up by 49%. Even before the recession took hold, Thetford was quite a difficult place to find a job. That's because a lot of the big employers in the town, this meat processing factory, for instance, have closed down. Which means this recruitment agency in Thetford has been pretty busy. Like many other towns, signs of the economic downturn are obvious, and there's also a large number of workers from Portugal and Eastern Europe vying for work. Even so, Diane Harper remains optimistic. She says the jobs are there, but the message is potential candidates must be flexible.
There are jobs out there, whether it's a seasonal, the end of the summer peak, or whether it's coming into the Christmas prep. Whether it's here to stay and things are going up, who knows? I would like to think it is getting better, and yes, we are seeing an upturn.
Ian Hyson set up his garden maintenance firm 6 years ago. It's been tough this year, although he has recently been able to take on 2 extra staff. For him, diversity is the key.
I think just the willingness to bend a little bit with today's society and the way finances are. Yes, there are still jobs out there and there's still work out there to do.
Today's been a bleak one for job prospects. For people like Michael Scott, they're just hoping that things will eventually turn round. Malcolm Robertson, Anglia News, Thetford.
Well, some better news. In a planned 6-day strike by National Express East Anglia train drivers that would have spelled chaos for our region's commuters has been called off tonight.
Leaders of the drivers' union ASLEF had threatened to strike next week over pay and conditions. But this afternoon, the two sides reached an agreement. Well, let's get more on this from Hannah Pettifer, who's in our newsroom. Hannah, at last, some good news for the commuters then.
Well, yes, the 6 days of strikes planned to start next Monday definitely would have meant more misery for commuters. But after 2 days of talks, the threat of those strikes is now over. The train drivers, who earn on average £35,000 a year, have managed to secure a 2-year pay deal of 3.5% over inflation. But more important to them, they say, they've got National Express to agree to address the inequality in pay between drivers. But for commuters, it's just relief that there won't be more disruption.
Definitely good news, because I think they should actually be grateful they've got a job in the current climate, to be honest. So yeah, definitely.
I think it's good news, but I think they might have actually lost a lot of their customers along the line from acting like that, to be honest.
I think that's probably for the best, really, so everyone can get to work and back.
At last, they're going back to work and they're going to do what they're getting paid for.
I'd like to think they struck a deal and they're keeping to it, and there's not going to be any more strikes for a while.
So does this then mean an end to industrial action full stop on the region's railways?
Well, it does seem to be on the Norwich to London line for the time being anyway. National Express have welcomed the agreement, saying this is excellent news for our customers and a full and scheduled train service will now operate. But there still remains a question over a number of our other train operators. London Midland, for instance, which runs trains through Milton Keynes, Northamptonshire and Bedfordshire. Only 2 weekends ago, they suspended all but one of their services because not enough train drivers volunteered to work. Although a temporary fix has been put in place, a long-term solution has yet to be found. So, as any commuter knows, problems on the trains are never far away.
Indeed. Hannah, thank you very much for all of that. Right, in other news, 6 men have appeared in court charged with public order offences after an army homecoming parade was disrupted by anti-war protesters in Luton. Angry scenes broke out as the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Anglian Regiment marched through the town in March. Well, this morning, supporters as well as some of the defendants left Luton Magistrates' Court after the accused men pleaded not guilty to using threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour. A 7th man was unable to appear today. All have been released on bail until January.
A Northamptonshire solicitor who campaigns against the closure of care homes for the elderly and disabled will have to wait until the end of the week to find out if she continues to practice. 53-year-old Yvonne Hossack is accused of breaching client confidentiality and taking legal instruction from those other than her clients, which she denies. Home Secretary Alan Johnson was one of several high-profile witnesses called during the 3-day tribunal in London, which wrapped up this afternoon. Several of her clients were also there to support her.
A couple of times my daughter found where her offices were and she got really upset and she ran into the office. Well, most people would have stopped her at the door and not let her through. But she made her a cup of tea and sat her down and calmed her down until my daughter recovered and went on her way again. There's very few solicitors who would do that.
Now, it was the biggest explosion in peacetime Europe, and nearly 4 years later, the fallout from the blast at the Buncefield oil depot in Hertfordshire continues.
The explosion wrecked homes and businesses in its devastating radius. But with the 4th anniversary approaching, most residents claim they're still waiting for suitable compensation.
Well, their grievances were highlighted again today as firefighters held an emergency exercise at a site near the blast zone. ITV's Marcus Powell reports.
Condition has been reported on the site. Please evacuate the site immediately.
An emergency at Buncefield oil depot as fire engines from 10 stations in Hertfordshire converge on BP's fuel store to fight a jet fuel fire, or at least simulate the reality. BP more or less survived the blast, which destroyed most of the Total and Chevron fuel tanks next door nearly 4 years ago. It was the biggest peacetime explosion in British history. Today, the Hertfordshire Oil Storage Limited facility is gradually reopening its site, and now they're practising emergency operations next door to ensure the same thing doesn't happen again.
These explosions in the past were perceived as never been able to happen. It was beyond anybody's imagination. And I think the whole of the petrochem industry, certainly internationally, have had to take a sharp, hard look at their own management procedures and maintenance and housekeeping.
The BP plant has spent millions upgrading their fire precautions after the explosion at the neighbouring depot. There, an overflowing fuel tank caused the blast, and the operators, Total, are now liable, faced with hundreds of claims, although very few have been settled. Ian Silverstein had a luxury home nearby, which was reduced to ruins, but he's still no nearer a settlement.
It's just very demoralising, very sad, and just disbelief that I'm still, we're here nearly 4 years on, still waiting for someone to be accountable for this and actually get my life back on track. It's disgraceful, absolute disgrace.
So far, only a handful of claims have been settled. One lawyer who's looking after 240 applications say just 10 of his clients have received compensation. He describes it as a war of attrition, with the oil company simply trying to beat people down, hoping to pay out as little as possible and taking as long as possible. We asked Hertfordshire Oil Storage Limited about the delay in paying claims against Total Oil, but they declined to respond to our repeated calls. Marcus Powell for Anglia Tonight at Buncefield.